Hello, and welcome to Viva La Action, the movie podcast where we're talking about all things action movies. The good, the bad, the underrated. My name is Santi, and with me as always is my co-host. It's Giggly Grayson.
What up? That's me.
Are you feeling extra giggly today?
No, my head hurts.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Have you tried drinking some water?
Does a Powerade count?
No, that is not water.
Does a Powerade and a little bit of milk count?
No, in fact, that doesn't even remotely count. What's it with you and milk? You're always drinking just straight milk.
I don't know. I love milk.
I just can't imagine that combination in your stomach is doing much good for you.
Well, okay. To be fair, the milk was with cereal.
Oh, okay. I mean, you didn't clarify that. You just said a little bit of milk.
That's fair.
I have distinct memories of you going to the fridge and just taking out the jug of milk and just taking a swig. So
Oh, I still do that.
I believe that.
It's tasty.
It is pretty tasty. I had another point I was going to make, but I've already forgotten because we went off on a tangent about milk.
Yeah.
Anyway, we just like it seems like every week these days we're a little bit short on time. So I'm just going to jump straight into the episode.
Let's do it.
Because Grayson, this week we took a step back in time.
Yeah, we did.
To watch a movie that takes a step forward in time. And that movie is 1968's Planet of the Apes.
Go get him.
Taylor! Why did you run away?
Security police.
I'm in charge of this man.
No longer, madam. He is now in the custody of the Ministry of Science.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Which, Planet of the Apes, like I said, is a 1968 science fiction film directed by Franklin J. Schaffner with a script written by Rod Serling and Michael Wilson. The film, which you may not know, is a loose adaptation of the 1963 novel of the same name, written in French by a man named Pierre Boulez. Planet of the Apes stars Charlton Heston as Taylor, the tallest and lankiest man on planet Earth.
Yeah.
With support from Roddy McDowell, Kim Hunter, Maurice Evans, and Linda Evans. They're not related in any way. They just happen to have the same last name.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Let me double check, make sure that's actually her last name. I just got afraid.
Like how there's like a million like Chavez's in New Mexico, but like none of them are related.
Yes, yeah. Maurice Evans, Linda Harrison. Sorry, I don't know why I got that mixed up.
That's okay.
That's okay. Somebody would have insulted me in Spanish if I didn't correct that. That's a little reference for just you and I. And I guess for the listeners, we had a comment this week, a hate comment.
That was funny.
Where a man decided to insult us in Spanish. But the words he used were pretty clear. We didn't really have to translate that one. Which, by the way, I just want to say, in my own defense, person who commented, you listened to enough of the episode and understood it in English to know that we were pretentious or whatever. So, what's with the commenting in Spanish? That's a coward's move. It's all I'm saying.
Also, I don't even know if we're that pretentious.
I don't think we are. Also, the thing he commented on was like a 2-minute clip that I uploaded just as like a preview of this episode. So I don't really know what he found in there, but whatever. It don't matter.
Yeah.
We'll keep chugging along. Excuse me. The film Planet of the Apes has an 86% critical score on Rotten Tomatoes with an 88% audience score. The film does not pass the Bechdel test.
I don't even think. No, there is technically.
There are two
Oh,
women,
there are two women.
technically. One of
One of
them
them
is
just
mute.
doesn't-
Yeah.
It was like they were actively avoiding trying to pass the Bechdel test.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the most 60s thing ever. It's like we'll have a woman, but she doesn't talk.
Yeah.
And the other woman is an ape. So you know.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
Yeah, it doesn't count. It's fine. She's not a real woman. She's an ape. Finally, the plot synopsis from IMDb. An astronaut crew crash lands on a planet where highly... Let's run it back. Try that again. The plot synopsis from IMDb. An astronaut crew crash lands on a planet where highly intelligent non-human ape species are dominant and humans are enslaved.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Now, before we get into spoiling this nearly 60-year-old movie, what'd you think of this film, Grayson?
It was all right. It was very 60s.
Yes.
You know, I'm used, and I've said this a lot on this podcast, I'm used to watching like the original Star Trek series.
Yeah.
And for being made in the 60s, it was very ahead of its time.
Oh, yes.
Very progressive. This movie, I could tell it was made in the 60s because there was a lot of moments where I went, ugh.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good concept, and I'm not surprised that it's been running now for, like you said, almost 60 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I could tell that it was from the 60s, and it was all right.
No, that's fair. I think just as a to jump ahead like just a tiny bit. I think I really like this movie and I would recommend it to certain people, but I think the caveat is you have to enjoy the really sluggish pace of a movie from the 60s.
Yes.
Like this movie for the time probably moved at a clip, right? Because it's like for the 60s, it's like all kinds of stuff is happening, right? But
yeah,
for our modern, TikTok addled brains, it is like this is like molasses. It is so slow.
Yeah.
And you have to either be appreciative of like the history of film and science fiction to enjoy it.
Yep.
Or you have to be really into like, I don't know, makeup effects and schlock and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's definitely an acquired taste.
Yeah. I will say this about it. The makeup and I guess the prosthetics for the apes was really good.
It's especially for the time, it is incredible. It is like
I was pleasantly surprised because I was going into it going, all right, this is, it's going to look like Star Trek. It's going to look kind of jank. But then when we see him for the first time, I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's surprisingly good.
Yeah, I mean when you hear the words like 1960s science fiction, you are picturing like the Gorn from Star Trek, right? Like just a paper mache lizard or whatever. And I think it is definitely like leagues ahead of that. Like the fact that all the actors who are wearing the prosthetics, like you can't see their human skin underneath is amazing, right? Like,
oh, it's so good.
I think where it falls apart is in the mouth because you can definitely see that like the lips aren't moving properly.
Yeah.
But besides that, like even the fact that like the eyelids move, the muscles in the face move, like the hair is all like natural and looks good. Like the fact that they were able to achieve all of that with 1960s technology is kind of amazing. And I think
Yep.
it's the one thing that kind of holds this version of the movie in such high regard.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of amazing that this particular movie has spawned so many films
Yeah.
and so much media around it. Like, just looking at the sheer like, this movie had 4 sequels, right?
Wow.
So it ran from 68, I think, to like 74 or something like that. It then spawned an animated series and then a live action series. So you got 2, like, what is that? Like 6 additional pieces of media right there.
Yeah.
There was also a video game that came out in like 99 or something. And then there was a reboot in 2001 that was directed by Tim Burton, which is you don't have to watch that one. It's got Mark
Fair
Wahlberg
enough.
in it. It's a
Yeah.
crap film. And then in 2011 they rebooted it again with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which now has its own 3 sequels. So it's like, it's kind of crazy that this movie, like, when you watch it now, you're like, this is the movie that spawned this like enormous, franchise.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Huh.
But
I know when because I watched it on Hulu.
Yeah.
And I was starting to type in Planet of the Apes, and like I saw, I mean, I think they have all of them.
Yeah.
Maybe minus the shows on Hulu.
Yeah, they do.
And so I was looking at it all, I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, because so for the original series, there was Planet of the Apes, then there's Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, and Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Then there's Planet of the Apes 2001. Then there's Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, and now there's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Which look, to be fair, that's a lot of the Planet of the Apes to say in one sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can also understand why sometimes people get confused on which one is which.
Yes.
Like, they've all got the Planet of the Apes in the title. So it kind of
Yes.
it takes a while to get all that out,
Yeah.
Sorry, 1 second. My dog is chewing on my curtain.
Oh.
What are you doing? Ugh. There's the culprit.
An actual felon.
He is a felon. He's a war criminal. Anyway. Monkeys. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for the intro portion.
Yeah.
So before we move on to excuse me. Before we move on to the spoilery section of the show, what did you think of this movie? Or I'm sorry, what would you recommend somebody watch this film? Sorry, I'm all over the place.
You're good. I think, like you said, I would recommend it, but I would only really recommend it to like kind of hardcore fans of this genre.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would necessarily recommend this to everybody, because it definitely is not for everyone.
No.
And if somebody asked about it and I knew like that maybe they weren't sort of into this kind of stuff, I would kind of walk them through what it's about, and just sort of help them make the decision on whether or not they would want to watch it.
Right.
But yeah, I would recommend it, but only to certain people.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody. I think,
Yeah.
especially people who have like a short attention span,
Yeah.
or just people who aren't into movies from before, like, I don't know, Star Wars.
Yeah.
You'll definitely struggle. Like, I think my favorite moment in the movie that is an example of that is right at the start when they like crash land on the planet.
Yeah.
They're like traversing through the desert, right? And there's this moment where one of the astronauts is like, Taylor, come look at this, right? And there is, I swear to God, like a 2-minute static shot of these guys climbing up a hill and
Yep.
then climbing down a hill, and it like never cuts. There's like
Yep.
no discernible reason why they have to show the entire thing.
Yep.
But it's just like,
Yep.
that was movie making in the 60s.
That was the most exciting thing.
Yeah, they were just like, just let it run. Just watch
Yep.
these men clamber up and down a hill. Just-
Yep.
It's not even an interesting shot. It's just
No.
like a sand dune, and it's
Yep.
like far away.
It's obviously like in like California or like Arizona desert.
Yeah,
You're like, oh, that's my backyard.
right. So speaking of which, did you know the twist of this movie?
That they were actually back on Earth.
Yeah.
This was the very first Planet of the Apes movie I've ever seen,
Yes.
and there was like a part of me that had heard that Planet of the Apes is like about Earth,
Yeah.
where all of the humans like so what I thought had happened in these movies is that the human race like disappeared and was replaced by this new species.
Right.
After watching this, that's kind of what happened, but not really.
Yeah.
And so when we found out that it was Earth, I wasn't surprised,
Right.
but I was surprised
Okay.
because at the very beginning, right, they're talking about like time travel. And I will say I geeked over the whole like first scene where he's talking about time travel and all that.
Yeah.
And I did the math.
Okay.
If you want to know how far 320 light years is,
Uh-huh.
it is 1.881 times 10 to the 15 miles.
Wow.
So that's 1 point, or that's, yeah, 1881 followed by 15 zeros
Okay.
miles.
Yes.
And so I genuinely believed that they were on a different planet.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they just kind of went in a circle.
Right.
And so yeah, when we get that final shot of the crown of the Statue of Liberty,
Yeah.
I when I saw the points, I was like, oh, that's the Statue of Liberty. We're on Earth.
Yeah.
And so I was a little bummed that we weren't on a different planet because that would have been really cool.
Right.
But I think it's also very interesting that we're still on Earth and this is what has happened to Earth.
Yeah.
So
no, that makes sense. I just didn't know because when the first time I watched this movie, I watched it in high school.
Oh, really?
And I didn't know the twist,
Uh-huh.
but my dumb adolescent brain watching it when they first crash landed, I'm just like, oh yeah, they're on Earth. Like that's, Arizona or whatever. Like I just wasn't, it didn't like, I guess it never like came to me that they were supposed to be on an alien planet, or like that they would assume they're on an alien planet. I'm like, oh, they just landed back on Earth. Of course they did.
Yeah.
So at the end, when they're like, oh, it's Earth, I'm like, yeah, you didn't know that the whole time? Like,
yeah. Well, and it kind of reminded me of this one episode of The Twilight Zone.
yes.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Is it the arrow in the sky or something like that?
I don't
I think that's what it's called, but
Okay. Yeah, it's where like there's this like little alien spaceship that lands
yeah.
on a planet. We assume that it's Earth, and this like person is like freaking out. And at the very end of the episode, we zoom in on the spaceship, and there's an American flag on it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that, of like we think we're on a different planet, but then the twist is we're on Earth. Whereas in that episode, we think we're on Earth, but it turns out we're on a different planet.
We'll see, and the reason for that is Rod Serling, one of the writers on this movie, created the Twilight Zone.
Aha.
And so yeah, his original draft was, because he wrote the first draft of this script. It was pretty different. So he wrote it to be more like, and he actually used that episode as like the basis for it.
Okay.
And he wrote it originally that the ape society was a little bit more advanced, like they were like 50s, 60s, whatever. But then at the end of the film, again, it would be revealed, like, you know, that they were on Earth or whatever, and the Taylor, the Charlton Heston character, was supposed to be killed at the end.
Oh, gotcha.
And so they kind of changed some of that, but then the other big change that they made is in the original novel, they are on an alien planet. So the way the original novel goes, there's this, to spoil this, you know, like, again, 60-year-old novel.
Yeah.
The what happens in the novel is these 3 astronauts land on Earth. 2 of them get or land on this alien planet. 2 of them get separated, and then the one, you know, gets whatever, captured by the apes and whatever. And a lot of that is the same, but like in Rod Serling's draft, it's more of like a 60s, 70s era Earth, and so it's like a little bit more advanced. And it is an alien planet that had both apes and humans, but what ends up happening is the apes were originally the pets of the humans, and like kind of like their slaves, and over time humans just became less intelligent because they relied more on the apes. And eventually the apes just took over and just became the new like masters of the world, right?
Yeah.
Well, at the end of the novel, the astronaut and his like new wife that he finds on this planet, they leave the planet of the apes, which is this other planet, get into, you know, go into space, and then crash land on what they think is Earth. And it turns out that Earth has also been taken over by apes, because they like land in Paris, and a cop car comes to like check it out, and a gorilla gets out, and he's wearing like a cop uniform or whatever.
Yeah.
So then they end up leaving Earth again. And I think at the end of the novel, because the whole thing is like an epistolary novel, so it's like a series of notes and whatever.
Right.
You find out that the narrator who's been reading this story is a chimpanzee. And he's an astronaut, because you think it's like 2 human astronauts who are reading this story, but it turns out it's a couple of chimpanzees. Which is pretty much how the Tim Burton movie ends, is like Mark Wahlberg leaves the planet of the apes and goes back to what he thinks is Earth, but then it turns out that Earth has also been taken over by apes. Which people shout on that ending, but that's actually how the novel ends. So it's like, it's kind of funny, but
yeah.
Yeah. So this version is like way toned down from kind of the weirdness of like the original script, and then just the original novel itself.
Yeah.
And I believe the sequels to this movie kind of take on some of the more of the novel stuff, but yeah, this first one's a little bit tamer. And you know, we are an action movie podcast.
Yes.
Or we're supposed to be. There's not a lot of action in this. It's mostly Charlton Heston sort of lumbering away from people.
Yeah.
He does get into one fist fight.
Yes.
Which is decent.
It's fine.
It's again that 60s style of
Yep.
fighting where a guy throws a punch and then he blocks it and then hits him in the stomach and then hits him in the back a couple of times.
Yep.
There's a couple of good karate chops in there, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But what did you so the lead of this movie is an actor named Charlton Heston. Have you ever seen him in anything before?
I don't think so. He looked kind of familiar, but I don't do you know what else he's been in?
I mean just a shit ton of stuff, but
Really? Okay.
I'm trying let me look really quick and see if there's anything you would recognize.
He kind of looked like the principal from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
He's definitely not, but I can see where you're coming from.
Either that or the principal from Breakfast Club.
Okay. No, he's not in either of those, but sorry, his Wikipedia page is fucking
massive.
Because we will talk about him as a person.
Oh boy.
Because he's a weird one.
Oh good.
I'm trying to find. I hate when like an actor's Wikipedia page doesn't just have their regular filmography on it. It's got to have this like long ass section.
Oh yeah.
It's like just give me their filmography. I don't need all this other shit. Oh, there we go. Okay. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. All right, let's look at more of his modern shit. There's definitely something you would have recognized. I think. Oh, he's the narrator in Armageddon.
I've never seen Armageddon.
Man, maybe you haven't seen anything with him in it.
Probably not. As we've established, I don't watch a lot of movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't find anything you would have seen.
Yeah, well.
But that's okay. What did you think of his performance?
Don't quit your day job.
No, I think he is the worst part of this movie.
Yeah, he just was like the best word I can use to describe him is like scrangly.
Yeah, he's like a raccoon. He's like
yeah. I would have much rather had one of the other two scientists.
I know.
Or astronauts.
He's like the worst one.
Yeah, he really was. I don't know. He irked me.
He is very unpleasant. Like,
yeah,
he's mean. He is like real gross and like, you know, talks about how many women he's bed and like, you know, just a big idiot.
Yeah.
He's aggressive. Like he's real like, you know, he is like a rabid raccoon. He's just like he's like bitey and he's like, you know, constantly trying to run away and hit somebody over the head.
Yeah.
It's like I don't see him as like a scientist in any way because like all three of them are supposed to be scientists and he does not strike me as like someone who would have studied any kind of like anything.
Right.
Yeah, I just find him very unpleasant.
Yeah, and like the only time we really see him be a scientist is at the beginning when he's talking about space travel.
Yeah.
And he gets a lot of that right. But it sounds like he's reading from a script.
It does, yeah.
And then the rest of the time, like he never brings up any science. Like, and that was one of the things that got me, like when they're like trying to like prove that whatever they're trying to prove that humans can be whatever and
Yeah.
are like intelligent. Like, why not just start whipping out science?
Right. Yeah.
Like, if you're a scientist, like you should be able to go toe to toe with these guys.
Yeah. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he seems more of like a military oriented
Yes.
person, not a scientific
Right.
oriented person.
Yeah, and and to be fair, I think part of what colors my like perception of him in this movie is that he was a real unpleasant person, like in real life. Um, like he was famously a huge NRA guy. So he
Ugh.
was like the president of the NRA for a while.
Oh God.
Yeah, just a huge like gun rights person.
Ugh.
You know, big Catholic, anti-abortion, like anti whatever, just one of those guys, you know. And just a real creeper, just you know,
Just a real piece of work.
just a piece of work. I mean, I don't think he was, I mean, I think he was worse in some ways than other people of the time, but in other
Yeah.
ways he was kind of just one of those guys from this period.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
all awful.
Yeah. And I find it funny. It's not funny, but we had that classic. There's the one token black guy, and he dies
Yes.
like 20 minutes into this movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, he does, and it's
and
especially,
and he doesn't even speak. Like, he doesn't have
no.
very many speaking lines.
He says like 4 things. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, it's a damn shame because he seemed like a pretty good actor.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know because they didn't give him any opportunities to act.
And it is in a way ironic too, because this whole movie is like a metaphor and sort of an analog for things like racism, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
the ape society, kind of one of the comments it's making is about how like they are basically talking about like eugenics, right? Like this
Yeah.
idea that, you know, and it's even commented on that like the ape society used to be segregated. Like at one point somebody talks about, oh, they don't have a quota system anymore for chimpanzees. Like, which is something that, you know, happened to humans, right? Like they used to have like the Chinese Exclusion Act, and like, you know, these like the idea of like, you know, they had a certain quota of how many people of color should be in certain whatever. Like the whole movie is supposed to be a critique of the way our institutions are used to oppress people, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, the movie kills the only person of color in the movie.
Yep.
And we are left to watch a white man run around like beating up, you know, chimpanzees or whatever. And it's like, it is kind of like you said, it or, you know, like I just said a little while ago, it is like ironic that is the ultimate, like, I don't know, conclusion.
Well, and did you notice that the apes that were sort of shutting down all of this, like, they were shutting down the scientists that were trying to like prove that humans were like intelligent and like on par with the apes, and you know, can speak and can learn and have, you know, thought minds of their own.
Right.
Do you notice that the ones that were against all of that and were very much, you know, reading the scripture and sticking to the whatever, they were lighter?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like, interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that does come, like that subtext kind of comes from a lot of what was written in the draft written by Rod Serling, because if you go back and watch The Twilight Zone, a lot of The Twilight Zone is like sort of subtextually like very progressive politics, right? Like,
yeah,
there's even an episode of The Twilight Zone about like a lynching. Like it pretty much wears its, you know, heart on its sleeve. And I think Rod Serling was really good at using science fiction to talk about issues that we are currently facing. Um,
Yeah.
because especially in contrast to somebody like Charlton Heston, he was very much like again, I'm sure some stuff eventually would come out about his personal life, but for all intents and purposes, he seemed like a very genuinely forward-thinking individual.
Yeah.
And I think if there is one thing to be said about this movie, it is that it is what science fiction should be, which is
Yes.
it uses that platform to comment on something that is happening now, right?
Yep.
Like yeah, it is ironic that the only black guy in the movie gets, killed immediately, but at the very least you can talk about how the movie is trying to say something about
Yes.
the state of science and religion and indoctrination and you know it
Yep.
is definitely like not hiding what it's trying to talk about.
Right.
Because it's one of those movies that like sort of drives me crazy sometimes when I read like commentary on it where people are like, this is what it was like back in the day when movies were just movies, it's like back before there was politics in our everything. And it's
Buddy,
like
there's always been politics.
in everything. Like it doesn't matter what you're watching, there's
Yep.
politics in it. And this is
Well,
a
and I mean,
perfect example.
look at the original Star Trek series.
Yeah.
On the bridge, right? Where the captain sits, you had a Russian, a Japanese man, and a
Mhm.
black woman,
Yeah.
all with high levels of authority,
Yeah.
right? The black woman, communication, right? She was on there, she was like lead communicator. The Russian and the Japanese guy were your lead navigators
Right.
and pilots.
Yeah.
Um and Star Trek as a whole, has always been about pure exploration and just going out there, finding and respecting other cultures.
Yeah.
Um but oh no, never been political. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You're a joke.
Well, even I mean, I think the one that always gets me is when people talk about like Star Wars not being political, right? Which like
Lit-
this movie predates Star Wars by almost a
Right.
decade, but um it is hard to look at Star Wars and be like, "Oh, there's no politics in that." Like
Right.
you have to be literally like putting your head in the sand to not see like what that movie is trying to talk about.
Yeah, I know.
But regardless, um yeah, I think this movie, even though it is a blunt, like it's like hitting somebody with a blunt instrument, it is like at least I think an effective,
Yes.
you know, it is effective at communicating the message it's trying to communicate.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I don't know. I just think it's funny that we yeah, I feel like we don't get science fiction that's like that a lot anymore.
No.
Not that we don't entirely, but I feel like it is rarer now to get a movie like this.
It is. Well, I think the problem right now is that people who make science fiction are trying too hard,
Yes.
and they're making it so that you really have to look for it.
Yes.
And they're almost assuming that like they're not, what am I trying to say? So in earlier science fiction, it is very much going, here is the message, right? They're giving us all of the information
Right.
up front, and they're not trying to hide anything.
Right.
Right? There's not a lot of nuance there. In a lot of newer science fiction, you really have to look for it because it feels like the people who make it assume that everybody will understand what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
when not everybody is going to be looking for that, or not everybody is going to get clued into what they're trying to do.
I think, yeah, I think storytelling in movies is kind of becoming less subtle, and I
Yeah.
think that has led to like a lowered appetite for something like this, which doesn't, because we said it's pretty obvious about what it's talking about, but at the same time, it never tells you, by the way, this movie's about racism.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like a lot of movies now, people will grossly misunderstand it unless you tell them explicitly like
Yes.
what the movie is about. And there's a discussion to be had about like media literacy, right? But
Don't
you
even
know,
get me started.
but like there are so many films now where people lose their minds over something in it, and it's like, yes, that's the point of the movie. Like,
Yeah.
it's depicting something that is bad. Like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to be told explicitly the message of a film. And I think
Yeah.
that is why so many people now are like, everything's so political now, because they have no fucking like sense of
Critical thinking.
subtlety.
You're
Yes,
right.
it's like, oh God.
Yeah.
But also
I
there is, yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
fucking,
No, I could go on for days about how media literacy has taken a complete nosedive,
yeah,
and nobody somehow we all forgot how to critically think
yes,
about things, and use context clues,
right,
and critically analyze a piece of media. Um I could go on for days about it because I see so many like chronically online takes, and I'm just like, can you please, for the love of God, go back to elementary school so that you can relearn how to
yes,
critically think about something?
yeah,
Because it is getting exhausting seeing these people like grossly misinterpret a piece of media
yeah,
and be like, "Oh, it's terrible because it did this, this, and this." And it's like, "No, you stupid bitch. That's the point."
right. Yeah,
I
and I
could go
think,
on for days about it.
no, no, but you're right. And I think part of the problem is, for a while, right, people made fun of this idea of like, you know, the English teacher's always asking you, well, what does it mean that the curtains are blue? And sometimes the curtains are just blue. But it's like, the point of that lesson is to teach you how to watch things and
Yes.
think about them in a
Yes.
way that is not, again, just hitting you in the head with whatever it is that they're trying to tell you. Because
Right.
the point of storytelling is to convey something,
Yes.
like going all the way back to fucking Aesop and his damn fables. Like, you know, the fucking rabbit and the
Right.
tortoise and the hare, right?
Right.
It's not just a fun fucking story about a tortoise and a hare. It's about patience and like, understanding when not to fucking put all your eggs in one basket and whatever. Like, the very foundation of storytelling is to teach you something.
Right.
But
It's to teach a lesson. Yes.
right, but not by telling you
What the
what
lesson is.
what the lesson is. And so people seem to have got it in their heads that like, if I make a movie about a serial killer, oh, obviously I must be endorsing serial killing. It's like, no, you fucking dimwit. Like,
Yeah.
the point of the movie is like to show you this is bad. We're watching
Yes.
bad, right? The characters are reacting badly.
Yes.
Like, oh, like
Yeah.
in, again, to reference another science fiction movie that came out very recently, the second Dune film, right? The entire point of that film is about how colonization and deification is bad, right? Like,
Yes.
it's about how people can use tools like religion to oppress other people. And people and it could not be more like less subtle in its storytelling, and people still don't get it. It drives
Yeah.
me crazy.
Yeah. There's this. I don't know if it's like a YouTube series. But it's a couple of. It's like these animated um series. One of them it's called Has Been Hotel.
Oh yeah,
And I forget the title of the other one. But there's relationships in that show that are very abusive.
yeah,
Right, and people are like, oh well, this character's bad because they're abusive, or this character is bad because they like being abused, and you shouldn't like being abused. And it's like, guys, can we take a step back for a minute and critically think about this? We are seeing somebody in an abusive relationship that likes being abused. Do you think maybe that the reason they like it is because they have been told that they're supposed to like it?
right,
Right? They're in a situation they can't get out of, and they have some maybe underlying mental illnesses or whatever that are preventing them from leaving because they think they deserve it.
right. Well, and it's also like a thing of like stories can be messy, right? And
Oh,
can
yeah.
depict things that aren't comfortable.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you should like it. Like,
Right.
I like, fucking I'm trying to think of a really grim movie. Like, fucking Schindler's List
Yeah.
is horrible and hard to
Terrible.
watch. That doesn't mean Spielberg liked the Nazis. It's just like, but people can't seem to get it through their heads that it's like, not everything you watch should be comfortable and easy and about people you like and who are good and whatever. It's like,
There are bad people.
there are bad people in the world who have stories, and we should learn about those stories because it's important to learn about things like that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy when people are like, "Oh, I don't care about whatever. I just wish they wouldn't hit me over the head with whatever." And it's like, they have to hit you over the head because you fucking dimwits can't figure it out. Like,
I know, literally. That like we wouldn't have to hit you over the head if you weren't so dumb.
right?
Like, I'm sorry to say, and I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, and I'm sorry if you're one of those people,
Yeah.
but we wouldn't have to hit you over the head so goddamn hard if
Mhm.
you were not just a bona fide idiot.
Yeah. Like, I just can't. I cannot with people who are just like, "Oh, I didn't get it." It's like, "Oh, were you paying attention?" Like, what do you mean you didn't get it?
Did you fall asleep the instant it started? Like, my brother in Christ.
Oh man, people are so
Please.
frustrating.
I know. Like I said, I could go on for days about this shit. Me and
Yeah.
my roommate, me and Lissa, we go on about this all of the time because it's so infuriating.
It is infuriating. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, there is something has to be done about this. Nuclear bomb? No.
Maybe. Hey, when's the next asteroid coming?
Yeah,
You know that
hopefully
one that took out
soon.
all the dinosaurs? I think we deserve one.
Yeah, we should have one just because
Yeah.
people can't understand the subtlety of Star Wars. The least subtle piece of media on the planet.
Literally. It has.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. To take it back to this stupid movie about monkeys or whatever. We talked a little bit about the makeup.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the makeup is insane.
Oh,
it's so
it's
good.
really good.
It is. I don't know how they did it. It's just like, I wanted to give credit to the makeup artist. He's definitely dead, but what is his name? His name was something. I'm trying to find it. Oh, his name was John Chambers. So shout
Damn,
out to
rest in
John
peace,
Chambers.
King.
Fucking badass.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see if he's still alive. No, he died in 2001.
Oh.
If he was still alive, he would be 102.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, rest in peace, King.
We forget how long ago these movies were made.
Yeah.
That being said, Nova, who is the human woman in this movie, she is played by what did I say her name was? Linda Harrison.
Yeah.
She is still alive. She is like 78 years old. But she's still kicking. Good for her.
Oh, we were
ahead.
wrong. There's 3 women.
Oh, there's 3 women.
There's the very first one in the spaceship that doesn't act, doesn't do anything, just lays there and dies.
Yeah, and they brush it off so quickly. They're just like, I don't know, air leaking or whatever. She fucking clocked it. Let's just move on.
Anyway, we're out of here.
Gotta go. Which also, it is implied that her whole purpose on that expedition was to repopulate whatever like planet they landed on. Like Charlton Heston like almost explicitly says like her whole purpose was for them to like be able to have sex with her. And he says it like not so subtly either.
Yeah.
I cannot stand him. Like he's genuinely the worst part of this movie.
He's icky.
He's real icky. And if anybody is interested, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which is the sequel to this movie, it's way weirder. It's shorter, and Charlton Heston is not in most of it. He's at the very beginning and he's at the very end.
That's some good shit right there.
There's a much more likable man who takes up much more of the runtime.
Excellent.
Also, there's a weird like bomb worshipping cult in that movie, which is great.
Well, you know,
but yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we touched on everything.
Yeah, I pretty much touched on everything. Looking at my notes just to see if I have anything else I wanted to talk about. Nope, that's pretty much it.
All right.
Yeah, so that brings us to the end of the show. Well, almost the end of the show, the end of the review, where
there you go.
You tell us what you would rate this film out of 10.
Damn. I'm gonna have to give it like a 6.5.
That's fair. Do you want to explain why?
For a lot of the reasons that we've already kind of touched on, I almost went with a 7, but man, it was slow.
Yes.
It was slow. The main
Sorry, you cut out for just a second. Can you re-say what you said?
Oh, yeah. Main actor, insufferable.
Yeah.
And I don't. It felt like there was something that they could have, and I can't put my finger on what it is, but there was just like an aspect of the movie that they could have done better.
Yeah.
Whether that be, I don't know, adding another like human that talks, or I don't know. It just it didn't feel complete. It
That's
felt
fair.
it felt rough.
Yeah.
Um, I and I do want to give props to the makeup. It was really good. The music, I think that's another reason why I'm kind of docking it points is the music was like meh.
Yeah.
It I never really noticed it and it didn't add anything to my viewing experience really.
Yeah.
Oh, and I don't know what was up with the guns, but the where a clip like a magazine should have gone, it
Yeah.
just was empty. And so, and I know that like maybe they were trying to like go for a futuristic thing, but like it really took it out of me because I was like, where are the bullets coming from?
Right.
uh and it there was a couple of things that really just didn't make a whole lot of sense. Um and so yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll bump it up to a 7. A 6.5 seems a little too harsh. There was a few good aspects and I didn't totally hate it. Would I watch it again? I'm probably not. Um but yeah, I'll stick with a 7.
Okay. I'm probably right there with you, like exactly. I think a 7, if only because, like you said, it is slow. It's very like you said, you have to be into this to watch it.
Yeah.
Um, it's not an easy recommend unless I'm like, yeah, do you like slow science fiction from the 60s? Then you'll love this.
Yeah.
But I have to give it more than 50% because a lot of the stuff we enjoy now does not happen without this movie, right? Like
Correct.
this pioneered makeup effects. It pioneered, this kind of action science fiction film, right? Like even though there's not a lot of action in this is way more exciting than half the science fiction movies from this era, right? Like
Oh,
if
100%.
you watch something like 2001: A Space Odyssey, you would want to pull your fucking eyes out. Like compared to that, this is like fucking Drive or something. Like it's
Yeah.
like, like the fact that there are people shooting guns at all is insane. So
Yeah.
again, like Star Wars doesn't happen without this. Like, it is foundational for that genre. So
Yeah.
you can't dismiss it out of hand. You can critique it on its own merits, but um yeah, you have to give it credit for the legacy, I guess.
Yes.
Um
Yeah.
but that's pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Um so we're going to very quickly move into a section that we like to call editor's picks.
Yes. And I
What do
got
you got?
one.
You got one?
Fall Guy.
Ooh, the Ryan Gosling film?
Yes. I watched this weekend. It was pretty good. A lot of the people that I've talked to about it said that they like were busting their sides laughing.
Yeah.
It is funny. I didn't like laugh like out loud. I there was a few moments where I chuckled.
Yeah.
And it is funny. Um and it is good. My roommate Lissa was telling me that I guess the director is a stunt guy.
Yeah.
And he's been one for like 15 or 20 years or something. And he wanted to make a movie just sort of as a homage to, stunt workers,
Yeah.
because they're wildly underappreciated,
Yeah.
which is fair. We never really think about the stunt guys in movies.
That's true.
And so it's a really well done, I think, story. It's unique. Um, uh, and I I came to a realization, however,
Yes.
about myself. I'm not, and this is very unfortunate because he is quite a good actor. I'm not the biggest Ryan Gosling fan.
No, that's fine.
Um, because in this movie, I was like watching it and I went, ah, damn, he kind of looks like Jake Paul. And that really did
I
a
can see that.
number on
Yeah.
my enjoyment of the movie. Obviously, he doesn't sound like Jake Paul, and he isn't Jake Paul.
Yes.
But like the haircut, the beard, and like just the way, especially like his eyes and his jawline, I
Yeah.
was like, damn.
No, that's fair.
um,
That's yeah.
but aside from that, I think it is a really, really good movie, and if you do watch it, stay till the end, because they do a really cool, like, behind the scenes, like, montage
Yeah.
of all of, like, the stunts being done, and it's really cool, and
Okay.
I think, my Alyssa brought up a good point, we should definitely start having, like, an awards, um, section for stunt workers,
Oh
because
yeah.
that shit is terrifying, and without them, a lot of these movies just don't happen.
That is true. Um, yeah, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but the director of that movie, he also his name is David Leitch.
Uh-huh.
He directed, well, he co-directed John Wick, the first one. He
Nice.
directed Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, Hobbs and
Oh.
Shaw, and Bullet Train. So
Ah.
he's had a damn good run.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, this is his latest movie. It unfortunately, I don't think did very well at the box office.
Damn.
I think it flopped kind of hard, but yeah, I've been meaning to see it. I am unfortunately part of the reason it probably flopped because I didn't go see it at the theater. But
Oh, that's okay.
I'm waiting for it to come to like rent for cheap so that I can watch
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Um, but I'll hopefully do that soon. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like I've been wanting to watch that. Um,
Yeah.
my recommendation, I've been mulling over a couple of different ones, but I think what I'm going to go with, I'm going to recommend everybody go check out The Crow, which
I've
is
heard about this.
it's from the 90s. It stars Brandon Lee, who the late Brandon Lee, who was Bruce Lee's son. It's yeah, it's amazing. If you've never seen it before, it was recently back in theaters for its 30th anniversary.
Wow.
They're also rebooting it later this year with Bill Skarsgård, the man who
Nice.
played Pennywise. But and having not seen the new one, I would just say everybody go watch the original and then maybe make your own decision on what the new one looks like. Because the original is just like it is. It's just one of my favorite movies. It's just
Really?
like it's tonally perfect. The action is a bit shit, but I don't care because it's real stylized.
Yeah.
The whole thing is just dripping with style. It's pretty dark, like big trigger warnings for like uh, uh, sexual assault and things like that. But besides that, yeah, just a great film. So I would recommend everybody go check that out.
Excellent.
Which that brings us finally to the end of the show, which is where we get to tell you that if you liked this show, if you enjoyed it, and you don't want to insult us in Spanish, you can leave us a nice review. 5
Yeah.
stars. Really
Yep.
helps out the show.
Yeah.
Gets us up into the charts. I don't know if you saw. Actually, there's no way you would have seen, but just for your own information, we're like number 100 in film and television reviews in the Netherlands.
Let's go.
So
in the Netherlands. Hey, we'll take it. Top 100, baby. We're claiming it.
Hell yeah. It's funny because I get emails sometimes from this website called Chartable, which like tracks how you're doing on different charts. And every week I'm like, oh, number 100. Oh, Netherlands. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'll
right
still take
on.
it. So shout out to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something else. Yeah, thank you for listening and reviewing and stuff. Helps us out. if you're listening on on YouTube, leave a comment, hit the like button, share it with a friend. You can send us an email to
Yep.
vivalaaction@gmail.com. And if you do so, we'll happily send you a sticker. We
Oh,
got some
yeah.
stickers left over.
Oh,
Follow us.
I'm gonna start putting the stickers around town.
You should. Yeah.
Just up on lampposts and shit.
I'm just going to put them on the backs of people's cars.
Do it.
Just randomly. Just like, hey, listen
Excellent.
to this. Hey, check it out. Yeah, follow us on all the things: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I've started putting TikToks back up again. I stopped getting off my lazy ass and doing it.
There you go.
But yeah, that's pretty much everything.
Yep.
And here's Grayson singing the Star Spangled Banner.
I actually forgot the words to that song.
Oh shit!
I don't know the tune anymore.
That's okay.
Is it the say can
think
you
so.
see? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's early light. Okay. Anyway. If you want to find Grayson, you'll find them buck naked on top of a bumblebee statue in downtown Albuquerque.
But not like the insect, like the
Transformer. Yeah. That's a real thing that happened.
It is, yes.
It wasn't Grayson, though.
No.
And you'll find me swimming in a big bowl of saltines. I don't know. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
See you later.
Adios.
Bye.
Goodbye.